Good afternoon, everyone. As always, it's nice to be with you. Here we are on the first day and the first Wednesday of the month, which is just absolutely crazy. I just can't even fathom. This year is almost over. Guys, we need to grab a hold of the reins and slow down and try to breathe and relax a little bit. Well, today we have a great show, one that I've been looking forward to for a long time. But before I introduce our guest, let me tell you what I'm doing for the rest of the week and what we have coming up. So tomorrow morning, very early, I am leaving for Missouri, for Vandalia, Missouri, for the Homesteading Life Women's Conference and Retreat. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I just really love it. Great group of women. I meet new faces every year, and we have lots of really good classes and presentations about food, nutrition, and of course, homesteading topics. So I will be there this weekend. If you're interested, tickets are maybe still available. I'm not sure. You'd have to check the website, but there it is. And then after that, I want you to mark on your calendars, if you haven't already, the From Table to Temple conference coming up in April of 2026. Yes, that seems like a long ways away, but as you know, it's really not. We have tickets on sale now, and this time we're doing things differently than we have in the past, and we're really excited about it. So we're starting out with a Friday evening dinner, bluegrass music. I'll be giving a presentation, and farmers Thad and Gail Montgomery will also be giving a presentation or a short talk about their farm and the things that they do and that are important to all of us and especially to them. And then all day Saturday, we will have presentations and workshops for you to choose from. So that is April 25th and 26th, I believe. I can't read without my glasses on. The last weekend of April, 24th and 25th of 2026. So check that out. This would make a great Christmas gift, by the way, or Valentine's gift, but Christmas gift, anniversary gift, just a gift to someone you love. All right. Now, all of that said, Homesteaders of America, by the way, is coming up also the weekend after this. And I will be there some of the time. God's Good Table will not be there, but Weston A. Price Foundation will be there. I will also be representing them at the Virginia Medical Freedom Conference at Patrick Henry College a week from Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. But now we get to move on and introduce our guests. And I've been wanting to do this for so long, and we finally got it together. I want to introduce to you Kelly Mogenberg and Sarah Pope. Hey, girls, there you are. There we are in Orlando last October. And let me unmute your mics so that you can talk too.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi
there you are. So Kelly and Sarah, we go way, way, way back to our early days in Weston A. Price Foundation. For me, I think my first conference was 2003, and I'm sure I met the both of you, if not at that conference, at one soon after. Do you remember?
My first one was 2010.
2010, okay.
And my first conference was 2004. So
Okay.
I probably met you there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the next year. Things have really grown since those early days, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah, in 2010. That was Philadelphia, Kelly. So
Wait, I thought it was Chicago.
Oh, maybe it was. Maybe it was Chicago.
Yeah.
I remember I pinch hitted there for someone who was supposed to have taught the food preparation class post-conference, and she became very ill. And so I took over and did that. That's what I remember mainly from that conference. But both of you have been friends ever since then, and I've always valued and appreciated what both of you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Sarah. And Sarah, I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Hi, everyone. As Maureen mentioned, we go way, way back. And I have been blogging now since 2009, but I was writing since about 2005. So it's been about 20 years since I've been writing. Many of you remember Yahoo boards. I had a Yahoo forum locally with about 1,000 folks on it. And that's when I got my start writing back in 2005 about traditional foods. But I first became interested in all things healthy foods back in 1991 when my husband and I got married. And I noticed, because he's from Australia, when he moved over here, that his health just went down eating the food over here. And if you can think, gosh, 1991, if it was bad back then, you can imagine how bad it is now, 34 years later. But it was bad enough then. And there were no GMOs in our food supply then. And I looked at him and I thought, wow, our food must be really, really bad. And I started to investigate, and we very quickly switched to organic in 1992. I got involved in traditional foods for the first time in 1995 when we started incorporating Ayurvedic cooking in my kitchen, but that's Indian based. So not everything really worked for us, being of Western European descent. So when I found Nourishing Traditions in around, I guess it was 2000, 2001, everything just clicked for me. I thought, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And began to go to the Weston Price conferences and incorporated all things traditional food in my kitchen, raised all three of my children with traditional foods, and they're all adults now, healthy adults. So I can give a thumbs up to that approach. And my husband recovered his health, thankfully.
Yep.
Eating traditionally. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
And a little piece of that story is that our very own Erin used to babysit your boys when she was in college in Florida, picking up her raw milk every week from you. And so she was kind of the segue for me also to get acquainted with you and get connected. But that's just another fun little tidbit. So. And
one of the early videos on the blog is Maureen making panna cotta, if you remember.
Yeah,
and I've got my house that one day.
I've got that right here.
Oh, sorry.
And there's a QR code to find the recipe. It's just easier, I think, to just set that up that way. But you can go to the healthyhomeeconomist.com and look in the recipe section to find my panna cotta recipe. Of course, I make this over and over and over and over again. It's always good. No one ever tires of it. It's delicious. But Sarah has also written 3 ebooks. Here are 2 of them, which I find very valuable. I think I bought Get Your Fat Straight when you first put it out.
They're actually in hardcover also. Well, paper also, paperbacks.
Okay. I thought I noticed that on Amazon. Yeah. So you can check out those books and the recipe, and your content goes all over the place and is in depth and very informative. Whoops, I'm going to go back to this. You have a platform, Healthy Home Plus, in which people can go even deeper and have access to more recipes, more articles, more information. And so for those of you who might be interested, you might want to check that out. And then we'll introduce Kelly. And I think I butchered your last name because
you said it right, actually.
Did I?
Yeah, I was shocked.
And I want to say Mogenberg, but is that right?
It is. I was shocked when you did.
Well, I got something right for once.
We've known each other a while, though, so you've probably heard me say it enough. That's probably why I rolled off your tongue like that.
Possibly, but I know you as Kelly the Kitchen Cop more than anything, I guess. So, and there you are as Kelly the Kitchen Cop. I always get a smile when I hear your moniker or I see you, because I think of your bright, sunny disposition and And also your content, like Sarah's, is very informative and very, very healthful and important and impactful. Your approach is slightly different, and I just like it. So you also have written a couple of ebooks. I at least have Real Food for Rookies. I'm not sure if I have the other for happy kids, but it's such a good idea because it goes along with our topic today about how do we feed our families healthy, good, wholesome food that brings about health instead of illness. And you've got that ebook right there.
Those are actually both also paperback.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the Real Food for Happy Kids is not an ebook.
Okay, I didn't know that.
That's just the paperback, yeah.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Will you have some of those with you at the conference?
I don't know if I will this year. I did last year, and it was a monkey show rodeo. So I don't know if I'm going to do that
for me. Just bring one for me.
Okay, I will. Remind me to write that down later because I don't remember anything without writing it down.
Yes, I'll prompt you. I'll text you. Okay. The conference that we're discussing is the Weston A. Price Foundation's annual Wise Traditions Conference, which will be in Salt Lake City in just a few short weeks. 3 weeks from Thursday, I think, is our chapter leaders opening, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the conference itself. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Sarah there this time as we did last year, but we'll be happy to be there regardless.
I will be in Virginia at a family reunion, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Actually, it is 3 weeks from, so maybe it is the exact same weekend, the 23rd.
No, it's the prior weekend, I think.
Oh, it's a prior weekend. Right.
I think so.
Right.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. It's only 2 weeks from Friday. We leave a week from Tuesday. Yikes. And I just got notice. I checked email and my flights are not secured yet because there's a problem. So I've got to get on that. Yeah. Oh, well, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out, but we're headed there. That's always a wonderful time. For me, it's especially nice just to reconnect with people. I'm always working, so I don't so much go to hear the talks as I do just to be with everyone.
That's the best part.
It is. It is. And learning is fantastic too.
Yeah.
Well, all righty. I really wanted to approach this topic today about the economics of preparing good quality foods for our families, because I so often get this pushback about it's so expensive. And we talked about this in one of our shows a week or two ago. But sometimes people even think that we're somewhat arrogant because we only feed our families good quality foods. Well, for me, it is the most important thing I can do for my family, second to teaching them about God, being a good mother and a good wife. But there's nothing arrogant about it. I just think it's important to feed our families good quality food. And Sarah, you've already talked about the difference that it made in Richard's health. Yeah. So what are your thoughts off the cuff about this whole idea that it's out of touch, that the average person can't do this, it's too expensive and too difficult?
Well, I can say that when we first started eating, we switched to organic, and then we started to incorporate traditional foods throughout the 90s, and then just full bore around 2001 when I came across Nourishing Traditions. That yes, it is more expensive. Yeah. But what does that mean? It's more expensive by comparison because conventional food is so cheap.
Yep.
So I think changing your mindset a little bit is important, and that, in my view, if you don't have your health, money doesn't matter.
Yeah. Ill health is expensive too.
Right. So if you're trying to pinch pennies and save $10 here, a couple bucks a pound on grass-fed beef, by buying conventional there, you may save some money, but in the long run, it's not really worth it, because again, if you don't have your health, once you lose your health, you would give any amount of money to get it back.
Yeah.
So you guys remember what Joel Salatin always says? He says,
right.
have you priced cancer lately?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's what I would say. And also, you know, we've been doing traditional foods for a very long time, as you both have, for decades. And it's been through good times and in bad in our family. I remember one time in 2007 during the currency crisis, we literally woke up on a Monday morning, my husband's company was gone. And I was home with 3 little babies. You know, we had no income. Just literally, we woke up Monday morning and, you know, all the credit. Do you remember when the credit froze and everything? And his company just went under. So we had to make a decision. Were we going to continue to eat well? Were we going to go cheap? I mean, we just literally had everything cut out from under us overnight. And, you know, we cut everywhere, but we never cut the food. Even when we had no income for about 6 months, like zero. I said, you know,
Volumes.
you know, we're going to we'll go to one car if we have to. We'll ditch the house and go live in a small apartment. We'll do whatever, but you can't cut there. That's
Right.
just not where you cut.
I agree.
And to me, that was the right decision looking back, because our kids were so young. It's such a, you know, they're growing fast. You just can't feed kids cheap food, especially at that age. So that's what I would say.
You can feed them cheap food, but you'll pay for it in the long run.
Well, you'll pay for it later. So I tell people, you know, you got to change your mindset.
Yeah.
And realize how critical the food choices really are.
And
I feel like also if you remember how much you're saving by not eating out, not eating fast food, not buying box cereal, you know, like a box of cereal is so expensive for a bunch of nothing. Like there's no nutrition in it. And there's so many other processed foods that they're not cheap either, really, you know, but if you cut that junk out, then you're saving a lot right there.
Yeah. You know, that is such a good point, Kelly. I have a few times over the years compared my food budget for what the typical, our friends' families were spending. And sometimes they'd be discussing this on a Facebook group or just in conversation. And I'd hear what they were spending on conventional food, and it was twice what we were spending. Now, granted, while I was raising the kids, George and I, on our farm, we did have our own dairy cow and we had our own chickens and we raised most of our own meat. But I would factor in even what the value of that was. And when you're feeding real food, high quality food, your kids are not hungry all the time because their body's needs are being met.
Yes.
Yeah. So that grocery store sticker shock, it really kind of levels out, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think so. And it's still more expensive though. I mean, it's not like it's going to cover all of it because it is more expensive. But like Sarah said, you have to just make it a priority because there's really nothing better besides, like you said, Maureen, you know, introducing your kids to the Lord. There's really nothing better than keeping them healthy. I mean, it's like a common sense thing, but so many parents, I feel like they don't even know where to start. And so I feel like though, if they just put their toe in, I feel like it's so much easier now than it was when I first started because there was not that much online. I mean, when I found the Weston Price Foundation, I was so excited and I just like devoured that website and learned so much. But, you know, and then a few years later is when I started my blog and then Sarah started hers, and it got easier as more people started talking about it. You could find more online, but at first it was really tricky. But now it's so much easier if they could just, like I said, just start to dip their toe in and then start looking online. And there's so many tips and tricks and how to save money and, you know, how to save time. A lot of people, that's the other thing besides the financial part of it, people complain that it takes so much more time. But there's tips and tricks to both. If you want to go online and dig in, you can't just be lazy about it. You have to invest your time, the same as you prioritize your money. You have to prioritize some time into this too.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for the time that it takes to drive to or through a drive-through, you could be spending 5 minutes in the kitchen prepping food for a week. I use my food processor, and that really saves a lot of time. Yeah, we're standing in line or sitting in restaurants. We're doing a lot of things that take time when we could, I think, be in the kitchen also. So making use of our time as a factor, as well as the monetary expense of buying better quality food. But I don't know what a box of breakfast cereal costs now. I have no idea. I haven't bought breakfast cereal in at least 30 years. But that's just one example of what people buy, that and prepackaged meals, or
Yeah.
they're not.
I used to buy all of that. I wasn't as smart as Sarah to do this like when my kids were little. I wish I had been smart earlier. I didn't find all this until, well, like our youngest, really, his whole life, he's eaten good food. But, the others, I used to take the kids out for fast food all the time. And I mean, I just didn't think it was that big a deal. I was really dumb. And,
That's
you know,
not being dumb.
food-
That's the way things are perceived and have been for years.
but
Yeah.
of course, it's a big regret that I didn't know this stuff sooner.
Yeah.
It was my husband's health before we had children that kind of got me to go, wait a minute, why is this food making him sick?
Yeah.
At the time, the food in Australia was much better than it is now. It's gone kind of down the tubes there too, like it has here. But at the time, the Australian food was much, much better. And so he took such a turn when he moved here in the early 90s that it shocked me. And I thought, wait a minute, I need to start looking at this stuff.
Yeah.
Examine what is so different about the food here. Why is it so bad? And so, you almost need a jolt like that sometimes to kind of snap you out of it so that you look at things differently.
Yeah.
You're open to like a new way of doing things, a new way of thinking. And that's what it is for me. And it seems like for everyone, it's something different. Usually it's a health challenge.
Yeah.
Someone in the immediate family that causes you to go, wait a minute, I got to make some changes.
Right.
That I've seen over the years. Very few people kind of just come to it out of, I don't know what your story is, Kelly, if you just came to it because you realized, wow, or what
I was always just
challenge.
I was always really open to learning more. I was always very into reading. I would read lots of books about health and stuff. And I remember one of the first books I read was Jordan Rubin's book. Remember how he healed his IBS?
Yep.
Patient heal thyself.
Yes, right. And I was just showing somebody that the other day because their son had IBS. I'm like, this is like the first book I ever read about this.
Yes.
But that was even before the light came on for me because I thought, oh, well, he had IBS. That's an interesting story. But I then read the, what was that called? The one about the big keto guy or the low carb guy. I can't remember the name of that book right now.
Atkins?
Yeah, it's one of those books.
The
I read
Atkins
that
diet?
and I was telling my friend about it and she was kind of making a face like I could tell she wasn't totally on board. And then she said, well, have you checked out the Weston Price Foundation before? And so I was very curious and then had like the light bulb went on in my head. I remember where I was sitting when I got online, where our computer was downstairs at the time, where I was sitting when I just devoured this one Saturday morning before the kids were up. And so the light bulb came on for me, but then changes started happening in my family after. So I just started noticing, behavior was better with my kids and learning came easier. And that kind of stuff happened after I started making those changes. So that kind of got me to keep going. But by then I was just the common sense light bulb just came on in my head so strong that and my husband, thank God, he was completely on board because he grew up on a farm and he was all like, you want to get raw milk? Okay, fine. He used to drink it, on the farm. And so everything I'd say, do you care if I'm going to go out and buy a $400 Bosch? And he's like, well, if you use it, that's fine. So like, he was so cool about it, And
Wow.
he knew that I was good
That's
about
awesome.
budgeting and like making sure the money was there and everything. So
Yeah. That is really neat.
That's a great story. I don't think I ever heard that before. As long as I've known you, I don't
Really?
think I knew that.
yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was just watching my mother when I was about 12 years old overcome major physical issues by changing her diet and consequently ours to a more whole, still unfortunately low fat, but a whole foods diet. And she overcame major health problems. And so that stuck with me. That was something that always lingered in my head. So when I became a wife and mother, that was there. I was always thinking about it.
You always raised your kids on this diet too, then, huh?
For the most part, yes.
Oh, good.
Aaron and Taylor, the two oldest, they were on pretty much a whole foods diet, but not anywhere near where they should have been. When I got married, I was still buying, I can't believe it's not butter. And I kept thinking,
I was too. Oh,
it's not butter. So yeah, you did too.
kills you to think about it now.
I bought Country Crock.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
That's just as bad.
Man.
Yeah, we thought we were doing something good,
I know.
but it wasn't good, was it?
No.
You know, Sarah, when you were talking too about your husband's challenges and something you said also, Kelly alluded to this, but my mind goes back to those Little House on the Prairie books. And I used to be puzzled probably 25 or 30 years ago about why, when Laura and Almanzo got married, did Almanzo suddenly have health issues and major health issues?
Huh.
She was feeding him crap.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have Kraft mac and cheese and all of the stuff we have now. Back, that would have been in
What was
the
she feeding him?
white sugar, white flour primarily. Yeah.
The modern foods of displacing foods of modern commerce. Is that
Yes,
what
as
Dr. Price
Dr.
calls
Price
them?
would say. Yeah. Yeah, and that was just in the beginning. So I know that she liked her sweets. I remember reading about that. And she did not want to make whole grain bread. The long winter, they had to resort to getting into the seed grain because there was no food. And she hated it because she preferred the white flour. So that really says a lot, maybe about why the strong, manly Almanzo became ill. But the same thing happens with us, and even more so now when we're feeding our children poor quality foods. So, and Kelly, you mentioned about how the kids could think straighter and learn better. That's something that I often address when I'm teaching. That is such a big deal. Have either of you been in the public school realm at all?
Unfortunately, for a while, until that light bulb went off in my head too, and
Yeah.
I broke them out.
Yeah, when you see what kids are eating in school lunchrooms and what they're packing for breakfast that they're wolfing down before the bell rings in the morning. I taught for 2 years in a private school and I was absolutely appalled.
What they eat for breakfast.
Yeah.
They get on the way to school in the car. They'll pull through a Starbucks. My daughter used to tell me this, that some of her friends, the parents would pull through the Starbucks drive-through and they would get a giant latte of some kind, some sugared up drink that probably has 60 or 80 grams of sugar in it.
Yeah.
Plus the coffee and all the caffeine. And the elementary school, middle school or whatever, not even high school because they're not driving, would drink this on the way to school. How can you learn?
Yeah.
After
and when the food dyes are causing your neurons to misfire in your brain.
Yeah, and they haven't eaten anything.
Right. There's nothing to temper it.
If they did eat something before they had this giant sugar and caffeine drink, it would have been a donut or something.
Yeah. Or a bowl of cereal with fat-free milk from the conventional jug.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kids, you know, they can't learn because they're chemically imbalanced after they have something like that. They're just, their brain is fried.
They can't sit still.
That's right.
It's so hard for them.
No. I had one student who I loved. He had such a good heart, but he was high functioning autistic, and he came in every day with Skittles and Dr. Pepper and Lunchables. And he, this is not a hyperbole, he literally was climbing the walls. Or he was passed out, just passed out at his desk. He couldn't think clearly, and he could not operate. Now, are you either of you familiar at all with the Appleton, Wisconsin study that was done, I think, in 2003 in the public schools, where they took one charter school, which was of challenged children, kids who had issues, where they had special programs, they had security guards, and they were all eating just what everyone else was eating in the school. And Appleton has Natural Ovens Bakery at the time. I don't know if it's still there, but they sponsored a project with the Appleton, Wisconsin School District to go into this school, remove the soda and the candy and the regular school lunch program, and they underwrote fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains. And I didn't see a lot of protein and fats in the videos that I watched about it, but they took them off of all the junk and gave them much higher quality foods. Their scores went way through the roof. They no longer needed the security guards because they didn't have outbreaks and, fights and things like that. So that speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yeah. What does a typical day look like for you when you start out in the morning? And let's go back, Sarah, your kids are all grown now.
Yes.
And so you're not doing this anymore, but what did it look like when you were raising the littles?
Wow, that's a long time ago. But I did hear from my youngest, who's a junior at college, and she starts her morning with a cup of meat stock.
Good for her.
Yeah, in her apartment at college, because she has a better day. She's noticed that if that's the first thing she drinks when she gets up, it sets up her digestion for the whole day. So, and she does cook most of her meals from scratch at home.
Wow.
And in her apartment and all of that. But when they were little, I'm trying to think, that was a long time ago. I would really focus on eggs and meat of some kind, either bacon or local sausage. Of course, they would have their raw milk, which until they got to middle school, I put in their lunchbox as well until they got to middle school. And then that wasn't going to fly anymore, just due to peer pressure, I guess.
Yes.
So we dropped that.
We had that.
Yeah.
Another good one, though, if you're feeding kids in the morning is I started making homemade granola recently, and I love that with raw milk. So it's kind of like a breakfast cereal, for a treat. Well,
yeah,
a little bit of a treat because there is a little bit of sugar in there, but it's like maple syrup. So that's another good one. Sometimes I would do like soaked waffles. They would love that with maple syrup, of course, and lots of butter. And trying to think what else we did for breakfast. Like you said, a lot of eggs.
Oatmeal.
Oh yeah, the soaked oatmeal.
Yep.
The apple pie oatmeal or whatever, the overnight oats. That was always a hit.
Yeah.
My youngest is the same age as Sarah's youngest, so it was a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to remember back.
Yeah, and then lunch when they were going to public school, they did. I mean, not my oldest because I didn't have a clue until he was older, but once I did, they mostly would just pack their lunch. We would just make sure they had good lunches. And then if they, like saw something, those school lunches don't even look appetizing anymore. They're so gross. Like when I was a kid, we had actual lunch ladies who cooked homemade food.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah. So, but nowadays it's just all this prepackaged stuff. And so the kids I don't remember them ever really wanting that food. But like if they saw something like, Mom, it's pizza day tomorrow, can I get pizza? I would always just let them do it, because if you say no, they're going to want it all the more. So that would be a really rare thing that they would ask. And then I would just say, no, but for almost every day, they just took their lunches. And then when I started homeschooling, that was awesome because I could make a treat for them now and then and not worry about the fact that like when they were in school, they were getting a treat every time you turn around. Someone's handing them some gross treat,
it's not a treat if it's every day either.
Exactly. And it was every day. They're handing them candy as like a prize, or, it was someone's birthday, and they couldn't, back then, now it's probably worse. They couldn't like make anything homemade. It had to be from the store because there were allergies and there could be this in it or that in it. So they were getting the junk all the time. So then when they came home and I homeschooled them, it didn't bother me to, make them a treat now and then because they weren't getting it all the time.
Right. Yeah. It looks very different. The lunches that growing up, I learned that cocoa powder wasn't sweet because the lunch ladies made chocolate pudding one day and there was a little chunk of cocoa powder. It didn't get mixed up. That was how I discovered that cocoa was actually very bitter. You would not have that now, would you? And now it's low-fat milk or it's chocolate low-fat milk, and it's all kinds of gross things that are not at all good for us. But but peer pressure is really a problem. I know.
Peer pressure is tough.
Even in homeschooling, when you're going to homeschool co-op and
it's a challenge. The peer pressure thing to me is one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing to overcome with eating. And with all three of my children, it's great when they're really little. You can control it 100% until they go to school. And you just gotta grab onto those years. And 0 to 5, from birth till they went to school, I was very, very strict. But then once they get to school and they start seeing all this stuff, then you have to have the conversations. You've just got to keep the communication open and talk about it and talk about why we don't have that in our house and what that can do to you. But until they actually experience how bad you feel when you eat that food, they don't really get it. I think one of you said, Kelly, I fed my kids good all the way through their childhood, but the downside of that is they don't know what it feels like to feel bad. They've always felt good. They've rarely been sick. And when they did get sick, they got well really quickly. So when my kids got older, they start driving, they're kind of off. You're not there all the time. When they were younger, I would always feed them before we'd go to a party. So they would arrive to the party not hungry. And they wouldn't eat much of the junk. That was a key tip that I did. Was always feed them before we went anywhere.
Yeah.
Even a church potluck. We would all eat before we went. But then they get out on their own. They start to experiment, and they start to realize.
And they hear about Chick-fil-A. And
everybody loves Chick-fil-A.
So bad. Those ingredients are so bad.
It's all of the same things that we're trying to avoid. Yes. So just because it's a Christian company doesn't make it good food.
I think I've written to them before. It was a while ago, but I was like, you're doing great things as far as, the Christian part of it, but what is with all the crap,
it's terrible.
Shocking when you look at those ingredient labels.
It really is.
Yeah. And that is something that some of my younger adult kids are drawn to. And they tell me that they're going to Chick-fil-A, and I just cringe. Now, they don't do it often, but I have one who does enjoy it, and we have conversations. Now, of course, we mentioned early on about Erin babysitting Sarah's boys and picking up her raw milk. When the two older ones in our family went off to college, I did have raw milk and some other foods sent to them. They, as far as I know, devoured. They never told me that they didn't. So
I did that too. Actually, my oldest went way far away because I live in Florida. He went all the way to Kentucky, and I would actually, until we found a farmer. His last year, we had a farmer locally, but I actually packed up, froze the raw milk, and packed it up and shipped it to him every other week. And it cost us a fortune to do that. A fortune. But you know why I did it? When he went to the college there, I went through the cafeteria at the college and I looked at everything. There was no saturated fat anywhere in that cafeteria. Nowhere. They did have some olive oil, but there was no saturated fat. Everything was low fat or olive oil. And I'm like, this kid's going to go crazy here.
Yeah, because Sarah, remember what happened to him when he went to camp up here by
Yep.
me, up in Michigan?
Yep.
And the camp where she sent him, they first of all, it was so funny when I took him some raw milk. I thought that lady was going to have a heart attack, but she didn't have any butter. Like, she couldn't believe that I said, can you give him some butter too? And she had, well, we don't have any of that here. She just looked at me like I was nuts.
Ah,
I know.
But he felt bad. Remember how
He felt terrible.
He wasn't feeling good.
He felt terrible. And I thought he could handle it it's such a good camp. It was such a good Christian camp.
Yeah.
In so many other ways. But, the food thing, I thought, maybe he was 11, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
He can handle it for a little while, but it's hard. It's hard. So yes, I did ship the raw milk too.
yeah. Even when some of our kids went off to camp, I packed their food. Not for one, I packed every meal for a week because I could legitimately say he had digestive issues. He needed to eat only real food.
Right.
Otherwise, that's a tough one.
It is.
It's easier to send them to a school with packed lunches and full bellies at breakfast, but to ship them off to camp, it is not easy. I've always wanted to be asked if I would be the cook for the camp, but nobody wants that kind of, sadly, they don't want real food. Now I do things here for kids and for friends and such, but camp and college are two toughies.
Yeah. And with all three of my kids, it all followed the same thing. It kind of just ate what they wanted the first year, got sick all the time, got sick with every bug that came around. They realized, and then by second year, third year, and then by the time, my oldest, he'll be 27 in a couple weeks. He is so strict. He knows. He eats so good. And my other son, who's now 23, he eats great. And my daughter's a junior in college, and she's come. She is almost all the way back. Still got a few things that I'm hoping that she'll drop in the next few years. I think she will, but they have to. The good news is when you raise them on good food, they've got good constitutions. Their tissues and bones and everything, they're strong. They can kind of venture a little bit, kind of experiment with the bad stuff. I hate it. But they have to learn. And some things have to be experienced. And then they come back. And then they're locked in for the rest of their life. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. One of ours went off to college and ended up after a year with crumbling teeth. Eating college food, went from having very strong teeth and no cavities to
only 1 year. That was only 1 year, 9 months or whatever, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Of course, I don't know. I was sending him raw milk and some other things, but I don't know what all he was eating. I'm sure it was a lot of crap.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, he's married to a woman who grew up on standard American diet and had lots of health issues and saw what we do. And she has completely adopted a wise traditions or a biblical diet. So they're doing really well now. But I don't think that most people understand just how deeply it affects physically and mentally our children when we feed them crap.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up on a pretty poor diet and I have a mouthful of fillings, and I just this week had another tooth extracted because my teeth were never strong. In other cases, people might just have the type of constitution that they get sick a lot, or that they're prone from the toxins to develop cancers or any number of things. And these things have very real costs, and we need to help young moms and young families understand that, don't we?
We do.
I think one of the saddest things is anxiety and depression.
Mm.
Yes. brains cannot function either when we don't put the right things in and when we put the wrong things in their place.
That's right.
That is really disturbing. There's so much of that going on today.
Yep.
So much.
Yeah. Well, after all of these years, so Kelly, what's the age range for your kids?
20 years old up to 33.
Okay, 20 to 33. And Sarah, you're 20 to 27.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 18 to 40.
Mm.
Yeah. How is everybody doing now? And how do you ever have discussions about both the economics and just the prep time to make real food for themselves? Or is anybody married yet?
No, but hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a basic economic principle, the time versus money thing.
Yeah.
If you want it to be inexpensive, you've got to compensate with more time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to more prep in the kitchen. And I mean, Maureen and I, we started so early, there was no traditional foods you could buy back in the early 2000s. You had to make everything.
Yeah.
Sourdough bread, kombucha, everything. So
Aaron,
the value, sauerkraut. I
Yeah.
mean, the value of that is we know how to do everything, which is great. We learn.
You do it in volume, so it saves time.
And you save a ton of money that way. And you've got to get it. I mean, we have 2 extra refrigerators in our garage. So, I prep and I make in bulk and I buy in bulk. That saves a ton.
Yep, time and money.
People don't really think like that. They just think, I'm hungry, let me eat. And it's kind of like a just-in-time thing. I'm hungry, I'm eat, and then I don't even worry about what's coming tomorrow or later in the day. You have to kind of change your thinking a bit. Buy on sale. My grass-fed farmer, when there's a sale, I load up.
Or buy like a half or a quarter of an animal. That's another big thing.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And we can also take our ground meats, which hopefully includes some organ meats, and brown them, not season, just brown in batches, and then freeze in quart containers or however you want to freeze it or dehydrate it. And so I keep things prepped in the fridge for a month at a time, like mirepoix, my anti-inflammatory blend, herbal mix, which is Ayurvedic, the ground meat, chicken broth that you reduce down so it doesn't take very much storage space. But when you do things like that, then you can throw a meal together pretty quickly and easily. And I think that really answers the economics of time.
Yes.
Well, the other thing I do is that not every time, most times I'm making like some sort of casserole. I'll make 2 or 3 of them and throw one in the freezer or 2, however many. And then that works out nice too, because like this weekend I'm going away for a girl weekend and that kind of ensures that my family won't do something, like go out to a restaurant for every meal or whatever. I mean, they'll probably go out still for one, but then for, they can pull a lasagna out or, a chicken fettuccine Alfredo or whatever. That's another tip for saving time and money.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely saves. I'll be away, of course, again for about 5 days, and the same thing. I've got meals in the freezer and components in the freezer or in the refrigerator and in the pantry. So my Emma is here and she's perfectly capable of throwing things together. And actually George does as well now. So we can have a meal in 10 or 15 minutes and it's nutritious and delicious. I need to do maybe an ebook for this too, but I do mix up some spice blends so that you can toss them into the other things and come up with different flavor profiles. But and buying in bulk and cooking in bulk save time and money. So I don't personally find that this is terribly expensive up front. Yes, but in the practical sense, no, I don't find this way of eating terribly. I spend less money than most people
We do too.
Yeah.
Our budget is lower than the same size family. I've consistently looked at this over the years.
Yeah.
That our food budget is lower than a similar size family buying conventional foods and, Ubering the pizza on a Friday
Yeah.
night and all of that. Ours is consistently lower.
Yeah.
I don't think ours is. I think ours is higher, actually, like when I've priced it out. But I mean, I'm counting everything, like every single part of our food budget. But I think the meat is one of the most expensive parts for us. But there are also ways, we eat really well here too. Like we make really good meals like every day of the week. We don't usually make like small, I just love to cook. That's part of it too. So, but I do think with meat, you can do things like have some nourishing meatless meals now and then. Every meal doesn't have to have meat.
Yes.
And even Weston Price said that in his book, remember?
Mhm.
Like if you incorporate other things in the meal, like broth and, healthy fats and all this other stuff. So I have a list of like meatless meals that are, those are faster sometimes. You don't have to thaw the meat out and everything. But the other thing I was going to say too, that helps, I think, save us money is that I have this house so stocked. So I rarely have to run to the store last minute for anything because either it's in one of our 4 freezers or it's in our pantry, whatever it is. I keep it stocked so I can always find something to pull together if it's like last minute or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going out to eat last minute. I'm not running to the store to get more and then you end up grabbing a few extra things. And so, yeah, I do think ours is a little bit more, but I have found ways to save money in other ways,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And especially you're saving money by not having to take people to the doctor or go have their teeth fixed.
Exactly.
Yes. Orthodontics, that's not cheap either,
No.
And if you can start early, like Sarah, did your kids even need braces?
No, none of my kids had braces.
See, mine did because I didn't start early enough. I think that's why. What about yours, Maureen?
Mine, one had braces because she was a thumb sucker.
Mm.
And so she had braces just to bring the teeth back in. And 2 other ones that we have congenitally a wide gap between our front teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did use braces for 2 kids just to close it up. Otherwise, the one was born with pretty bad gut damage. This was before I found Weston A. Price.
Mm-hmm.
He did not get braces. I wish I would have done a palate expander. We had no budget. We just didn't. And I dealt with that. I helped him with that later when he was a teenager. And then our youngest, I actually went to work for Weston A. Price partly so that I could pay for a palate expander for her. Because she had gut damage from contracting salmonella poisoning when she was 5 months old, which is a story in and of itself. She was strictly breastfed, but I served some poor quality eggs in a smoothie and everyone became ill with salmonella and it damaged her gut. So for her, she was just like the older brother who was born with gut damage. They looked the same, problems the same, just gut damage. And with the son, I was doing a lot of soy and not eating a lot of animal protein. It was a lot of soy. And he was born with gut damage.
Can we go back to the smoothie? What happened? What kind of eggs did you put in there? That's pretty freaky.
I had a friend who had a very good natural food store in central Pennsylvania. I was going up there for something and he offered me seconds on eggs that he had. I think that they were from young pullets and they didn't look perfect and right. So he offered them to me for very cheap. Now I had my own chickens, so generally I didn't need eggs, but I went ahead and bought them. And instead of cooking them, I used them in smoothies the first time. Everybody got sick.
Oh, that was a bad day.
My husband came home from being out of town. He didn't have the smoothie. And one of the sons, I think our oldest, Taylor, came home with him from working out of town. They were okay, but everybody else was throwing up and had diarrhea. It took about 10 days for it all to clear. I took Sone number 7 bentonite clay suspension, and I was only sick for 3 days. The other kids, one of them tried activated charcoal, and she threw it up, and she just wouldn't take anything else. So she was sick the longest. So that's the story there. But with everyone around us being sick, little Emma I was washing my hands constantly, but I was also cleaning up after everyone, including myself for a couple of days. And yeah, she started to get sick. I was giving her Sone number 7 also from my clean finger, and she got over it very quickly, but it was enough that it caused gut damage. There was a significant change from 1 week to the next, from pre and post. Wow. Yeah. So there was that. If you have eggs that have significant bumps and ridges, cook them.
Really? Like on the shell? You mean like bumps and stuff on the shell?
And it's not just like a tiny like calcium deposit, but actual ridges and bumps.
Oh,
never knew that.
I didn't until then. I didn't until then, but now I do. So yeah, I have no problem with using our eggs raw that I produce here.
Yeah.
I'm very careful otherwise with purchased eggs.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think raw egg yolks are one of the most nutritious foods to put into your smoothies, and sometimes
ice cream, homemade ice
cream. Yes, that's the other thing.
And I think that's important. Just getting to the economics part, you don't want your family to feel deprived.
Exactly.
And so I spent a lot of time. Sometimes I get people who criticize me for all the desserts I have on the Healthy Home Economist. I got a lot of desserts.
I do too. I do too. And most of them have the natural sugars, but I do have
exactly.
cane sugar.
And do I make them every day? No, but I make sure that if there's any occasion, even the smallest one, somebody got 100 on a quiz, I'm making cookies, We're
going to celebrate. Yeah.
Right. I wanted them to feel happy. And
a lot of times the desserts we're making, I mean, while all of my desserts aren't all sparkly on my blog, a lot of them are really nourishing. Like the ice cream is a really good example for a homemade nourishing dessert. And also the flan. Remember, Maureen, that you gave me that recipe for your flan?
I love that flan.
Oh, yeah, you had it. That's right. When I was in Florida, I made it for you.
I made it fun. Yeah.
Full of eggs and cream and stuff. I guess,
I've been thinking about that lately. I need to make it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even simple panna cotta, which is very similar to ice cream, I'll toss egg yolks into that.
Yeah.
And man, that is so good.
And smoothies, even though smoothies have sweetness in them, like whether it's from natural, like banana or mangoes, or the other thing I put in them is like maple syrup. So again, that's natural, but you got to have a little bit sweeter, else your family's not going to just drink this kind of bitter fruit thing. You got to have some sweet in there, no matter how you end up doing it. But that, smoothies are so nourishing, full of good stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I will just use bananas for sweet if I'm making it for children. But for George and I use whey instead of whey protein powder. I use liquid whey and a 24-hour cultured yogurt and just blueberries and gelatin. And I put in some energizing morning blend greens, which are mostly fermented greens. I don't put any sweetener in there. I'll toss in a couple of eggs, but just the blueberries or the mango will make it sweet enough.
Sometimes, though, I mean, it just needs a little dash of maple syrup.
In particular,
like if I don't have bananas, that's or mango or something like that. But I also put in there colostrum and collagen and my kefir, my dairy kefir. So it's just loaded with good stuff. Yeah,
it is. And when you're trying to get kids or adults even off of I almost said a traditional diet. No, we're trying to get them onto a traditional diet and away from a standard American diet. When you're in the process of doing that, you cannot ignore the fact that they are accustomed to either super sweet or super salty. So we use whole salt and we use natural sweeteners and whole fruits. And yes, we can adjust our taste buds. So that's super, yeah.
And I found that the taste buds are greatly affected by the health of the gut. As the gut gets healthier, your taste buds change. And
I think you're right about that.
I agree. My son argues with me. He thinks it's in my head, but I'm like, no, I'm telling you, no. I used to crave, like at Halloween, I would eat, Milk Duds and Reese's back before and now, like, I don't know when I had one last. It's been 20 years probably, because it just doesn't even look good to me anymore. Like if I want a treat, I want to make it myself, and then it's actually good.
Me too. If I want a treat, I want to make it myself. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm like that pretty much across the board.
It's mock me, and they're like, because anytime I see like a billboard with something from fast food, I'm like, I could make that a lot better. They're like, you say that about everything. You think you're so
I hear that too, Kelly.
I'm like, no, it's true.
With this inflationary environment that we've been experiencing the last few years, I mean, I've seen articles. I mean, I don't go to fast food either, but I was like, is it true to get like a Big Mac and fries and a drink? It's $20 now.
I don't know.
I mean, you can make a grass-fed burger, make homemade fries in the air fryer, tallow fries in the air fryer.
Or deep fry them in lard or
I mean, you can for like way less than that. So it seems like conventional food has gotten so expensive now. I have not seen real food, traditional foods. They have gone up, but I don't think they've gone up as much.
Really?
I don't think so either. And our tax dollars are what make cheap food cheap. And that needs to be understood as well.
Yeah.
Cheap food in the grocery store is only cheap because the farm bill pays the big.
It's an illusion.
It is totally an illusion. Yep. So there is a very high cost to real food. So I hope that this conversation encourages families to take a look, and not just families, individuals and couples, take a look at what you're purchasing and putting on the table and putting into your bodies, and realize that if you keep it simple, buy in bulk, cook in bulk, you don't have to have every spice and every ingredient under the sun. You can feed your family very well on a budget. And that's super important today. I think it's important always. And it may become even more important as time goes on. But we need to be cognizant of what cheap food does to our bodies and our brains and those of our children. So, well, ladies, it has been really a good conversation. I'm glad we finally had this.
It's fun.
Maybe sometime we can arrange to be in the kitchen together. I've been in Sarah's kitchen, but wouldn't it be fun to be together and do something?
It would be fun.
It would be fun. It would be, over the top.
Imagine how good that food would be with the three of us.
Yes. Let's think on that.
Okay.
Make that happen here, there, wherever. I'd be happy to post. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Okay. It would be fun. So we'll have to keep our audience attuned and let everyone know if we can make that happen sometime in the next year anyway, if not sooner. Okay. Well, Kelly and Sarah, I thank you very much for giving us of your time and your knowledge and your experience and sharing all of this good information with us. We're going to sign off for now, but we have more good conversations coming up, including one with Dr. Diane Schwartzbein. Don't go away, Kelly and Sarah. I'm just going to sign off here, and I'll come right back to you. Okay. Anyway, Dr. Diane Schwartzbein from the Schwartzbein Principle. My book is downstairs, or I would show you. We have her coming up in 2 or 3 weeks, and Sophia Eng with the topic for our discussion this time will be the healthy homesteader as opposed to just homesteading. We have other just really good topics coming up. So stay tuned, and please like, subscribe, and share. And you can click on the tab and buy us a glass of raw milk as well if you'd like. But I'll sign off for now. So until next week, have a really good week. We'll be thinking of you and praying for you and looking forward to seeing you next time.